Peak District is this amazing green space surrounded by cities. And in the south of the Peak District, we have these ravines, which are these sort of gorges, these steep V-shaped valleys with a river at the bottom, and they're tree-lined very often. It's just magical. You know, people can get here and walk through them and enjoy them. They're important and rare and amazing places. It feels as you're walking along that you're discovering it for the first time. It's kind of an adventure place. It's wonderful.
Life Within Ravines is a project working on woodland restoration of Teleosyrian woodland that's been ravaged by ash dieback over the years. By the end of the project, we will have achieved a resilient woodland which really stands up to the future tests of climate change and pests and diseases. As you can see from the map here, there's Teleosyrian woodland across the whole of Europe, including in the UK. The Peak District, we have the best and largest example of Teleosyrian woodlands. However, the woodland in the UK is in a particularly bad and declining condition. That's why the Peak District is being singled out for this really vital work to help restore the Teleosyrian woodland.
I live just over the hill, and I paint places that people love and enjoy and have an impact on, and the places that have an impact on people. I often paint things that move me, and what I'm painting is what's not there, basically. It's a hole where a tree was. It's showing that the trees are suffering and diseased and just like skeletons in the landscape, and it distresses me. It distresses me.
Mark, do you know where the route for Wednesday?
Yeah, sure. We're going to have a team in Dovedale today, so they're going to start at this south end. I've got a pair working up from the south and a pair coming in from the north, and they'll meet in the middle.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, we're in Dovedale today. We're going to go and survey some more woodlands. Let's see what sort of impact ash dieback is having.
Underpinning everything is the survey work. That's the crux that informs everything else that we're doing. That will then inform the management interventions that we do.
Okay, are we getting closer to the centre point of our survey area?
About here now, this is our centre.
Brilliant. Okay, let's pop our bags down and then we'll start the survey work. The first thing we need to do is to assess the area and decide what trees and shrubs are present here.
So how are we going to identify ash dieback?
Well, unfortunately, it's really obvious that this area has been impacted by ash dieback. We've got whole trees here that are dead and some trees which are just managing to hang on. But in other areas, more subtle signs might need to be found to identify the disease. So we might find later in the summer that some of the new leaf turns brown and goes dead and hangs down. We might find little bits of dieback on fresh shoots that tend to go a purpley or black colour. And when we look further down the stem, we might see diamond-shaped lesions. Ash dieback is a fungus. The spores of that fungus travel through the air and end up entering through the leaves and getting into the trees that way. In the late summer and autumn, the fungus might be seen on the ground in the leaves of last year's ash trees. So you might see tiny little white mushrooms. Each one of those mushrooms is going to create thousands of spores, and those spores can travel tens or hundreds of miles, and they're going to go on and infect more trees. Some trees aren't very resistant and die very easily. Other trees, like the ones on the other side of the valley that are in full leaf, have got a little bit more genetic resistance and are likely to persist for a lot longer. But ultimately, the prognosis for these trees is not good.
What does the ash dieback mean for biodiversity within the woods?
Well, there's lots of concerns about the biodiversity here. When we lose the leaf, we lose the woodland conditions. So all that shade and humidity, the woodland flora and fauna and fungi need to survive. But also there are specific invertebrates that need ash as part of their life cycle. They won't be able to survive without any ash trees because they're obligate species for ash. And other species just need ash to support them at different stages of their life. I think once you start recognising the symptoms of ash dieback, you'll often see two trees next to each other which are about the same size. One tree might be dead or dying and the other tree might be in full leaf. That's always a sign that the tree in full leaf is more resistant genetically to ash dieback. The Life in the Ravines project, together with the Living Ash project, is helping to identify these disease-resistant trees, and they're being grown on in laboratory conditions so that hopefully one day we can plant those disease-resistant trees back into this ravine. So while we're doing our survey, if we do find a tree that's really healthy, we need to make a note of it so we can come back and take seeds or cuttings from that tree in the future.
Shall we work out the result for this survey area?
Yeah, hopefully Josh has been busy inputting the data and working out what trees and shrubs we've got present. We can start to work out a score for this area. When we work through this system of surveying, it gives us a score of 1, which is the highest risk. So this is a high risk area, and that means that unfortunately this area is going to be and is being devastated by ash dieback.
So does that mean all these trees will need to be felled?
No, we don't fell trees just because they've got ash dieback. We're going to come here, we'll establish new trees, and we'll try and replace the canopy that's being lost as a result of ash dieback. Let's move on to the next survey area.
Sadly, the data shows that this area is heavily infested with ash dieback and therefore will need quite a lot of restoration work.
For me, seeing what's happening to the ash trees here in the ravine and in this area has been a bit like seeing my dad when he had dementia. We were losing bits of him and he was fading. He was still there, but we were losing parts of him, and that seems to be what's happening in the landscape and in the trees. It kind of breaks my heart. I understand in the great scheme of things, the trees have to die, and they will come again. Trees will come again. It's just, in a place like the Ravines, I would hate to see trees chopped down.
It's always important, I think, to have a valid reason for removing a tree from the landscape, particularly if you're working in these woodlands like these rare habitats. Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So the plan today then is we're going to work 2 teams. Martin and Lauren, if you can take a planting team down to the southern compartment. Kester, you and I are going to take a team cutting in this northern compartment. All right.
Yeah.
Great. We want to create optimal conditions for new trees to grow in. And to do that, we want to improve the light levels, and we want to reduce competition and open up access to nutrients and water. We will selectively thin the woodland. Those trees will essentially be the ash trees. They will be ash trees that are already dying, if not already dead. And in doing so, we're just creating plantable space in the woodland to improve the conditions for new trees to thrive in. We'll leave all the timber on the deck, stack that up, creating habitats for wildlife. Although you are intervening in that woodland, you're carrying out restoration works that's going to enhance the woodlands in the long term.
So we've got this lovely young large leaf lime here, so we can make a note of that in our species list. We can immediately see that this is a much richer woodland ecosystem. We're still in the Peak District Dales Special Area of Conservation, and importantly, we're still within that Tilio-Assyrian ravine woodland environment that's so special. We've got all these wonderful native trees and shrubs. We've got the yew, we've got holly, we've also got lots of lime, we've got rowan. It's really rich and diverse, and this is what we want to see, a big leafy canopy.
So this would give good survey results from the other woods we've been in.
Yeah, I think the other woodlands are dominated by ash, and all the ash is infected and it's losing all its leaf. In this area, we can only see a few ash trees, which means it can't be impacted by ash dieback. We've got this huge natural barrier to the left of me, which is this big rocky crag. At the bottom, we've got the River Derwent. So the opportunities for this habitat to be fragmented and disturbed by mining and agriculture and grazing has always been limited. We can already see how diverse it is. We can hear the birds. We know that we've got butterflies that are dependent on the wych elm and the lime trees and all the other exciting invertebrates that we see in habitats like this. The Life in the Ravines project has already started establishing new trees, and we do see diversity where we've been doing some of that work. I'm really proud. I think it's a brilliant nature recovery project, but it's going to take hundreds of years before it starts to look like this.
We've got a whole host of partners that we work alongside and additional stakeholders. They all bring something unique into the partnership. So, for example, we've got Chatsworth, who have got a lot of technical expertise when it comes to forestry, and they're out today at Castonwood collecting lime seed.
I think if I head up that right-hand side, get a nice high anchor in there, so I can work out that side, because I think most of the seeds are out the front.
The project collects its own seed so that we're retaining that genetic variation of species that are really adapted to growing on these particularly challenging sites.
Just think of the trees that these seeds are going to make. Yeah. Where they could be in 100 years' time. How many do you think you're on, Chris?
About 6.
There's not much tree work you can do where you're definitely doing the tree like loads of good by working on it. But like distributing its seeds for it, that's got to be up there.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's always a balancing act. Like you want to retain the tree and look after it.
Definitely a balancing act this minute. That's better. Now we're farming. The competition's back on.
Oh, I'm going to need a bigger bag, Chris.
Oh dear.
Yeah, to think that in 4 years' time, after these have been propagated, they'll be back out in this ravine, replacing all the dying ash trees. We'll be repopulating this woodland with the seeds that we're collecting today.
Bloody hell. How much have you got in your bag?
Okay, here at Forest Start, we take the lime seed and we're going to treat it, store it, process it and get it ready for sowing on the nursery. That's going to involve drying it down for storage and then mixing it with peat and having it ready for stratification, and the process of sowing is important to make sure that we're not just planting the easy species, but we're planting the full mix of what's out there in the UK. And these lime seeds, having come from the ravines, are going to be highly suited to going back there. The problem with lime seed usually is it's pretty low viability. That means that not many of these actual seeds are good. They're not going to turn into anything. They've got nothing inside them that's worth having, but the magic few will be in there, and the job here is to make sure that as many of those can grow as possible in the spring.
Our work here with the ravines will mean that the trees go back into the environment and will grow far quicker and reforest the area far quicker than it would do naturally. Because in the natural environment, there's a lot of wastage with seed. Probably only get sort of 20–30% of them germinating, but here we can get up to 60 to 80% to germinate and get more trees into the environment a lot more quickly. So the more trees we've got in the environment, if we do get hit with a disease in the future, we'll have a wider genetic material out there, so hopefully a lot of them will survive. Take this one here. This is a Tilia cordata that's come from the ravines. If it's not planted back into its own environment, then it'll come into leaf too early. It might hold its leaves too long in the autumn and get frosted, so it detracts from the quality of the tree. So you put it back in the environment it comes from, the seed will hopefully carry on that genetic improvement, an ideal situation.
Some of the seed we send off to specialist nurseries for growing on, and other seed we've got going to community groups. Public engagement is really important for the project, but what I particularly like is the fact that we've got school children involved in growing on seed for replanting back onto the SAC.
Well, thank you guys for coming again. It's nice to see you all. You're going to be providing about 200 trees for us, so it's a massive help for our project.
And they have the opportunity to tangibly touch and see these trees. These are the ambassadors that are going to be looking after these woodlands into the future. These are our future conservationists, so we need them to really feel part of the Peak District Special Area Conservation.
If you go a bit underneath, so imagine it you're just trying to gently pick out the root. Yeah, that's great. A little bit more and that's perfect.
By the end of the project, we're hoping to have planted over 200,000 trees. The planting team take a variety of different species that would have once grown on these woodland sites, and they choose through survey work and through their own technical knowledge which species to put where, and then add tubes and stakes to support these trees to give them a good chance.
It's nice to work in such a good area and such a good views, and to know that we're making a difference here. And now we're just getting all the plants in, a lot of different species. This is an oak that I'm putting in here. So I'm a bit of a bird girl. Everything kind of from a robin, kind of always about waiting, hoping that we're digging up a few worms for them. And then today there's been loads of kind of birds of prey about, had the buzzards about. It's really nice to work out here and see all the species, and to kind of know that the work that we're doing is helping and bringing them back in.
We've got the foundation species of small-leaved lime, large-leaved lime and wych elm, and then we have a whole host of other species which are well suited to the remote and rocky sites. Life of the Ravines and the project partnership know that this work is essential for the greater good of the habitats, and so that they survive for future generations. No one likes seeing trees cut down, but some of these views will change and adapt as the restoration work continues. These will then be woodlands that can look after themselves without the need for intervention from man.
I think it's amazing, the work that you're doing here. Absolutely incredible. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's a lot of hard work's gone into this moment where we can actually put the sapling in the ground. It's really important to me to be putting these trees back and restoring this woodland to a healthy woodland.
It's amazing to think that I paint these views and I was devastated that they were changing. I was really sad that all of the ash trees were going, and it looked so devastating. But I realise now, seeing the amazing work that you're doing, it's going to endure through your hands, and people like you will be caring for this in the future. And this change is quite sharp and quite quick, but look at what's happening. It's so positive for the future.
It is. It really feels good that we're doing something.
Put that one back safe.
Yeah, so I'll put this back.
The public hold these ravine woodlands really dear to their hearts. I can't wait to see the results of this project sort of 10, 20 years down the line, when we've got vibrant and thriving woodlands that are bustling with nature.
I know the ash trees in the ravine here have got ash dieback, and they're dying. At least when they're cut down, then I know that somebody has taken the care and the thought and the planning to take it down and plant something else instead. Plant, have some regrowth and some hope for the future. And I know that I won't see those new trees grow, but I know they won't be back for me, but they will be back in the future. So I suppose what needs to happen for my grandchildren to have a woodland here that's better than I know is it has to have human intervention to take the dead trees out and to plant new trees. It kind of hurries the process on a bit so that they can start growing, and by the time my grandchildren are sort of 20 or so, it'll be looking pretty brilliant.
By the end of the project, we will have planted over 200,000 trees. Life in the Ravines will have led the way in developing best practice for restoration of ash dieback woodland across the Peak District SAC, but then we can also spread that information across Europe. We will have achieved a resilient woodland which really stands up to the future tests of climate change and pests and diseases without intervention from man.